Hi friends! Today is a little special because I'm recording a video with my own voice for the very first time. It feels a bit funny but also really exciting. In this video I want to share with you the process of how I brand my reed diffusers step by step. But also I want to have a heartfelt talk about the reality of running a very small business, a business like mine and maybe like yours or one run by your friends. So let's dive in together. Running a small business is always about stories. Every product has its own journey, from just an idea in your mind to the moment it finally ends up in someone's hands. For me, reed diffusers are more than just home decor. They are a way to create mood and atmosphere, and the whole branding process, from choosing the bottle to placing the final label, feels like a ritual that gives meaning to the product. It might look simple, but behind the scenes there are so many details. Finding the right fragrance and tasting how it unfolds in a room. Designing a label that's not only pretty but also reflects the values of my brand. Even small things like the font color or the texture of the paper can take longer than the rest of the work combined. And honestly, sometimes it's exhausting. You put your heart into it, and then commissions or material costs eat up most of the profit. But the moment you get the first order or a message from someone saying, "Thank you, this made my day," all the doubts just disappear. I like to think of my products as little messages. Each diffuser is a reminder to slow down, take a deep breath, and notice how simple things can make us happier. Because small business is never just about the product. It's about the people behind it, their dreams, struggles, doubts, and little victories. And when you choose to buy from a small shop, you are not supporting a corporation, you are supporting a person. And that makes every single purchase truly special. Of course, running a business is only one part of my life. Behind the scenes, there are still everyday routines: cooking, dinner, cleaning up, answering emails, and simply trying to balance it all. Sometimes people imagine that if you have a creative shop, you are just sitting in a cozy studio all day making beautiful things. But in reality, it's also a lot of problem solving, discipline, and learning to stay motivated and when you are tired. And honestly, that balance is the hardest part for me. On one hand, I want to grow, create new products, and try new platforms. On the other hand, I don't want to lose the joy of creating by turning everything into a constant race. What helps me is slowing down, reminding myself that progress doesn't always mean moving fast. Even small, consistent steps can take you far. And sometimes the best ideas come not when you are working non-stop, but when you take a quiet walk, enjoy a cup of coffee, or simply let yourself rest. That's why I see my shop as more than just a business. For me, it's a way to share a piece of my life, my values, and the things that inspire me. And maybe through these little creations, I can remind someone else to pause, breathe, and notice beauty in the small moments. So, if you're someone who dreams of starting your own creative journey, I want to say it's possible. It won't be easy, but it's worth it. And you don't have to do everything at once. Just start small, stay consistent, and trust the process, because every little step counts. One thing I've realized over time is that creativity itself has value, even when it's not connected to business or sales. When I make something just for myself without deadlines or expectations, it feels like coming back to the reason I started creating in the first place. Maybe it's doodling in a sketchbook, experimenting with colors, or trying a completely new craft. Those small moments of play remind me that creativity is not only about results, but about the joy of the process. And actually, these experiments often inspire new products for my shop. Sometimes an idea that starts as a personal project eventually becomes something people want to buy. But even if it doesn't, it still matters because it keeps me connected to my creative energy. I also believe it's important to keep learning, not in a stressful, I must take 10 courses a year kind of way, but simply staying curious. Watching how other artists work, reading about design, or even traveling and observing everyday details. All of these things reveal their creative well. Another practice that helps me is journaling. Writing down ideas, feelings, or even small wins keeps me grounded. When I look back, I can see how much I've grown, even if the progress felt invisible at the time. Maybe the most beautiful part of this journey is the community. Sharing my process online has connected me with people who understand the struggles and the joy of making things by hand. Sometimes a single message like, I relate to this so much, makes me feel less alone. That's why I keep going. Not because it's always easy, but because creativity adds meaning to my everyday life. And even when it doesn't pay the bills, it always pays back in other ways, with joy, connection, and the feeling of being true to myself. Sometimes people ask me, how do you stay motivated? Don't you get tired of doing everything alone? And the honest answer is yes, I do get tired. Running a small business often means being the designer, the marketer, the accountant, and the customer support all at once. It's like juggling 10 balls, and some days you just want to let them all fall. But here's the secret, I don't rely on motivation, I rely on habits and small rituals that keep me grounded. For example, every morning, before I dive into work, I light one of my candles. The tiny act reminds me why I am doing this, to bring warmth, calm, and beauty into everyday spaces. Another thing that helps is giving myself permission to rest. I used to think that if I wasn't working, I was wasting time. But I've learned that creativity needs space to breathe. Sometimes the best ideas come not when I'm forcing myself to sit at the desk, but when I take a walk, read a book, or even just make a cup of tea and do nothing for a while. And of course, community matters. Even if I don't have a big team, I have people around me who support me in different ways. Friends who test my products, customers who leave kind reviews, other small creators online who share their struggles and make me feel less alone. That's one of the biggest gifts of being part of a small business world. You realize you are not just building brand, you are building connections. So, if you are watching this and you have been dreaming of starting something of your own, I want you to know this. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to wait until you're ready. The truth is nobody even feels 100% ready. You just take the first step and the path unfolds as you go. Will it be hard? Yes. Will there be days when you question everything? Absolutely. But there will also be days when you feel proud, inspired, and deeply grateful that you chose this journey. Because in the end, it's not just about building a business. It's about building a life that feels like yours. A life where even the smallest things, a handmade candle, a careful paper diffuser, a sticker you designed, carry a little piece of your soul and bring joy to someone else's world. And honestly, I can't think of anything more rewarding than that. So, that's where I will leave today's video. Thank you for spending this time with me. It means more than you know. In my next video, I want to take you behind the scenes as I prepare for an upcoming festival. There's going to be a lot of packing, planning, and probably a little house too. But I think you will enjoy seeing the process. Until then, take care and keep creating. Bye!